everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to episode 4 of Bewitched by Buffy. Welcome back to Bewitched by Buffy, where we're going to be reading all of the Angel and Buffy comics I can get my hands on. This is going to be a multiple week project because there are so many Buffy comics out, including the canon comics, the Boom Studios reboot, and there's new comics supposedly coming out from Dynamite. Every Tuesday, a new episode will be released of the comics we were able to read that weekend. This will be spoiler-filled, so please keep that in mind, but I hope you enjoy the ride. In today's video, we are finally moving on to the Dark Horse comics. We finished all of the IDW stuff that we are going to be able to read, but before we dive into Buffy Season 8, because that is the next canon comics that we should be reading, we have some like smaller prequel-esque type things that we should read first. I don't know if these are considered canon or not. I also don't know if I've read them before. We will see. These are things that I do not have in my collection right now, so we will be naughty and be reading them online. But we are going to be reading Fray, Future Slayer, as well as the Tales of the Slayers and Tales of the Vampires. Again, these are all things that are from Dark Horse that are supposedly going to have things in them in some way that lean into the canon comics of Season 8, Season 9, etc. of Buffy and Angel and Faith and all those things. So it is the weekend, it is Saturday, and we are going to be starting with Fray. Okay, I've hopped over onto my computer so that I can read this online, and I just started Fray, which is written completely by Joss Whedon, and it basically starts off by saying that this is the first Slayer that has been called in 200 years. This is supposed to be some sort of future thing. Like, I know I've heard it called Fray, as well as like Fray Future Slayer. On the thing that I can see here, the title is just Fray. They didn't have like the subtitle or anything, but they are talking about, and by they, I don't know exactly who. We're following the words, or seem to be a different thing than like this demon-y creature that we're following. But they were saying that she's been called. Her name is Malaka Fray, so Fray is her last name, and she is human. She's been called, she's a slayer. She has no idea what's to come, and it sounds like they have summoned Khan, I'm assuming some sort of demon, that is supposed to take her out before she can, like, the Watchers can get to her and like really make her a slayer. So after that little introduction, we are officially like introduced to who I'm pretty sure is Fray. She has like interesting hair. It's like darker with, it looks like pink ends, and I'm pretty sure that's the hair she has on the cover, but she's like talking about how she's having to pull a job and somebody, I guess, is throwing her off the roof. They have like interesting laser guns and flying cars, so like definitely in the future. So she escapes from the people that were chasing her. I guess she like stole something that she was trying to get to her boss. It sounds like there's like gang-ish related activity. She does get away from them and goes to where her boss is, and she calls him a radi. I think there's like radiation, there must be. And she says that he's not very creepy. Many people have been mutated by the sun's radiation, either by direct exposure or from their parents. And like, he's literally, he looks like a merman. He is in this, like, it's like an apartment building, it looks like, but the floor that she's standing on must be like glass over water. And there's just a bunch of water, and he is like in it. Like, it's just like a deeper apartment. Like, it's so interesting to see the different, like, I guess ways the future could be. Like, the fact that, one, we have demons and stuff because this is in the Buffy-verse world, but also apparently mutations and radiation and things. And so, personally, it does make me question, like, is this weird guy with, like, webbed fingers and completely non-human-like nature for, like, hardly anything, is he really just radiation mutated or not? Like, who knows? But I like the idea that literally he has this apartment and the bottom is like where he lives in the water, and then she's just on top of the apartment on this like glass thing. Okay, so Fray left her boss, who's a water creature, merman, he looks like a merman type of thing to me, place with a lot of money apparently. They're in these like bangle bracelets, which is intriguing, and he gave her 3 silver bangles, and apparently to her that is a lot of money. And as she's leaving, There's these lurkers that look like they could be vampires. We don't really know much about them because before we really get to know what's going on with that, this hover car, police car, hovercraft, I don't know, thing comes out and like shines a spotlight on Fray and is like, stop, please submit type of thing. And so she's like, fine, whatever. And this like blonde woman comes out and is sort of like accusing her potentially of stealing an amulet, which she did, and selling it to Gunther, which she also did. But of course, Frey's like, I didn't do it. I don't know anything about an omelet. You know, reasonable doubt type of thing. And then they get a little like personal, like, hey, I didn't think that you wanted money anymore, because she mentions like, oh, you have a lot of money on you, and she's like, I didn't think you had solid anymore because you're now up there in the upper levels, you guys only have credits, are you trying to take me in? And the other girl's like, no, I'm not trying to take you in, I'm trying to keep you out of prison. And then Fray calls her Aaron. So whoever this woman is, they know each other for sure. And I don't know if Fray started stealing after this woman became a cop, before this woman became a cop, I don't know, but they definitely have some sort of like, they know each other and they're on the opposite sides, which makes it intriguing. Okay, so Fray ends up going back to this like more like slums sort of area, and there's a couple kids and things there. The girl is like completely missing part of her arm, but she's like talking about, hey, you know, I was playing this game with this kid and I was winning the most, and then this guy came and I told him, I don't even know who you are, and just like, you know, like one of those kids that like can't shut up, and I absolutely love it. So Frey's like, slow down, tell me what's going on. And this guy shows up. And he's talking about like, you are the chosen. I am not worthy to come before you. And at first, when he first showed up and was like, Miss Fray type of thing, I was like, is this supposed to be her watcher? Because like we know based on like the very beginning of the story that she is supposed to be the first Slayer called in 200 years, and like the watchers are trying to find her. I don't know why there's watchers necessarily, unless they're just, again, watching, because there hasn't been a Slayer in 200 years. But he's like, you will protect us and end the scourge. And the girl is saying, he smells weird, and they're definitely showing this like liquid on his body. He says, you will cleanse us. And then he lit himself on fire. You will cleanse us with fire. So I'm definitely not thinking watcher anymore, but like that was my first instinct, was, is this her watcher? No, it's a creepy guy that I think this is a guy that she ran past at one point when she was running with her stolen goods. But he lit himself on fire. So she ends up basically tackling him into some water that was nearby, some sort of, I don't know, lake, river thing. And she was talking about how today has been a very bad day. I think she started off at the very beginning of the story saying that it was a bad day. And she said, hey, it might have been a pretty bad day, but, and turn the page, it says, at least it's over. And she goes into, I'm assuming maybe her house or something, turns the light on, and there is a giant demon guy with horns and stuff behind her door. So I don't think her day is going to be over. And that was issue number 1 in this story. So let's continue. Chapter 2 is called The Calling. Okay. And this demon guy literally just is behind her. He is trying to grab her, and she is like, don't scream, just go on instinct, basically. And she's trying to get away. Pulls her gun. And he says, you are a fool, girl. I am Urkon of the Deveris. Bullets cannot harm me. And then she shoots him with her gun, which is full of electricity. And she said, what's a bullet? So she shoots him, says, I put a whole cartridge or whatever into him. That should buy me an hour, more or less. He immediately jumps up, grabs her, and like pushes her and him through this wall. And she said, okay, less. And then they're falling. She doesn't see anything safe to land on. So she said, okay, the softest thing I can land on is him, and makes it so that she lands on him. Very first thing that she says after that is, he's not very soft. And she keeps trying to get away. He says, you are a fool. And she said, I noticed that, but I'm not dead yet. And he said, I'm not trying to kill you. She said, but you attacked me. He said, no, you were fleeing. I tried to stop you. Is he her watcher? Is this great big demon thing her watcher? Because he said he tried to stop you. She said, by pushing me through a wall. He said, you hurt me. I got angry. If you weren't trying to, I was sent to train you, to prepare you for the coming battle. You are the chosen one, Malaka Fray. It is your destiny to lead humankind in the war against the vampires. And she said, what's a vampire? I think this demon guy with ram horns and cloven feet is her watcher. I feel like I've read something about Fray before, but I don't know any of this. So I'm thinking I haven't read this specifically, but I have read some of Buffy season 8, season 9, etc. They, from everything that I've researched on this is supposed to be leading into the Buffy comics for sure. So I'm thinking maybe I know of Fray, even if I haven't read this. Okay, and so right after that, they do introduce what vampires are in this world, and it was exactly what I thought. They are the lurks that she was talking about. Like when she went out of one of the buildings, there was these like, they're almost like grayish colored, creepy, slightly pointed ears. I think they had fangs when I saw them, or claws or something, so I was like, they look to me like vampire-esque. And apparently they are, and so those are the vampires that she is supposed to be slaying, because she is now the slayer. Okay, so this guy, I don't remember his name, the demon guy. He's trying to explain to her that yes, she is supposed to be killing vampires. She is the slayer. He's like trying to prove to her that this is real, because she says it's not real. That's not me. And he's like, well, you have dreams, right? He's like, you have dreams of being a slave, a princess, a girl in school in a sunlit city. And she's like, I don't have those dreams. That's not me. So he's now trying to like prove to her though, like, okay, well, you have skills and strengths that other people don't. And she's like, well, I don't like work out or anything. I just am good at that kind of stuff. And he's like trying to like prove it to her. And so then he's like, okay, well then how do you explain me? I am not of your reality. Is not my visage strange to you? And she said, please, I work for a fish. But yeah, he is very big and demony, like I said. Okay, Fray does not want to be a slayer. I feel like that's a very common thing for people that were not raised as potentials. Obviously, we definitely see it in Buffy and things like that as well. But she said the mutant goat is sort of like out of his mind for saying that she needs to kill lurks. Not that she couldn't do it, by the way, but she has this carrier pigeon come in, and it's like a flying robot thing. There's like no pigeons around, I'm assuming, that she has a new job. And I'm just assuming that this job is going to do something. And I wanted to mention this because she's apparently doing the job in a museum, and I just feel like there is going to be something else going on, like a setup or information that we need. So, okay, so she is stealing something, and this museum apparently is like an older wing of it that she's in, because it still has like the older lasers and stuff. So she's like, this should be an easy job. It has old security. She grabs the thing that she is stealing, and an alarm goes off. And she's like, that wasn't me. I'm just gonna have to head for the exit and hope I don't have to deal with the guard. But the guard is literally being eaten by vampires or a lurk right now. I'm pretty sure he's the one that pulled the alarm thing based on the blood pattern on the wall. Okay, so yeah, apparently this was the thing that she needed to spur her on. Her calling, chapter 2 is called Calling, so that makes sense. Because yeah, that lurk was killing the guard, and then saw her and decided to try and take her on, and she has some sort of bad memory with it, because we've had a couple little flashbacks now to a darker, dingier color, and she looks much younger, so I'm sure we'll figure that out soon too. But she throws the lurk away from her and says, well, he's down right now, but he's obviously still breathing, or I guess as much breathing as vampires can do. But she says she doesn't know how to kill them yet. And then the next thing is her going up to her watcher demon guy and saying, okay, so what is a slayer? Sounds like that's gonna be what spurs her on. Yep, and that looks like the end of issue 2, moving on to issue 3. Oh, and issue 3 is basically just starting in that dingier color scheme where she looks younger, so I'm sure this is gonna be our backstory. Okay, she woke up, so this was probably memories but also a dream, but it looks like there is a guy with her. I'm going to assume maybe like a brother or something. They seem very young, so that's what I would think. But they were stealing, I guess, food. And he does mention Aaron again. I don't know if Aaron's still a cop or a detective in that timeline, because it is earlier. But they do show off a little bit of like Fray's inherent power of stuff, because he almost falls and she's able to grab him, and she like literally rolls her eyes at him being like, dude. But then when they get up, she says he's lucky that she has 2 hands, because if it was you or the food, I'm assuming she would be like, I would pick the food over you. But then somebody says you are the food, and it is one of the lurkers that we've seen before. He's a little bit special compared to everybody else because he has like a tattoo on his bald head. I'm assuming he's some sort of boss type of thing. And then she wakes up from her dream. Okay, so now we are back with her Watcher demon, because again, I forgot his name. And he's telling her that it's time to train, and she is going off because she needs to go give Gunther the thing that she stole from the museum first. And he is just like trying to like talk to her and train her and things, and like you can tell he's getting exasperated because he's mentioning that like she should know some of her importance, because she's like, I'm not gonna quit my day job. And he's like, you don't understand. You should have been having dreams about this kind of stuff. And she said, well, I'm not. It seems like maybe because she's dreaming about, like, having nightmares about the other memory stuff. But so he's gonna give her, like, a crash course. He said, there was once a thing on this earth called magic. There were demons, monsters beyond imagination, most of them pure evil. They ruled this dimension as they did so many others. And then she says, what's a dimension? He goes, Eventually, as mortal animals evolved under the protection of certain mages and Lorenites, she's like, what's and he just continues on. I don't know what a Lorenite is either. They left. All right, the demons, most of them found more hospitable dimensions, places, and left the earth to the mortals, for the most part. Some remained hidden away, some bred within the human community, their power weakened throughout generations, some assimilated, and some infected. Okay, I'm assuming like vampires and stuff. It is not known when they first appeared, but the vampires were a plague. The elders of several villages met, calling for action. They invoked the strongest and most dangerous magics they could summon to create a power that could fight the vampires, a power that lived in the body of a girl. Okay, she has been caught up to speed on vampire slayer stuff, but they're gonna go drop off the thing she stole, and I guess there's like a doorman, and she tells him, relax, this guy's with me. And he says, Gunther doesn't like visitors. And she says, shut up or he'll eat you. But Demon Watcher does not like this place, and he says there's something very wrong. He is not happy to go in here and see Gunther. And then Gunther says that there's my best girl, 12 hours late with my grab, and there's the giant goat monster making faces at me. Like, does he know what he's supposed to be? Demon Watcher does not like him. Oh, and apparently Aaron has the place tapped and is very upset that Fray is stealing stuff. She wanted to be wrong about it. And the guy that she's with, her partner or whatever, said, your sister. So I don't know if they're actually related or not. Like, I feel like the boy is, but Urkon. Okay, Urkon is the demon's name. They just said it again. I kept forgetting. Okay, so they're doing their training stuff. They tried dexterity and she did not duck. So while she's like injured on the floor a little bit, they decided to go with history. And so he was mentioning the different slayers and how like she fights the darkness and is succeeded by another and another and another. There's always one. She asked, how do they know who is a slayer? And he said they're trained and sought out by watchers, descendants of the shamans who created the first slayer. And so she said, are you my watcher? He says, no. And she's like, well, then why? He said, the reasons are his own. So I don't know what that means, but I still feel like he's like a watcher guy, even though he is a demon. I don't know, but apparently, according to him, not so much. So they're going into the history, and the next part of the history that they're talking about, she wants to know about the last slayer. And he says he doesn't really know, because she wants to know what happened. He said it was some hundreds of years ago in the 21st century. What we do know is this. There was a battle. A slayer, possibly with some mystical allies, faced an apocalyptic army of demons. And when it was done, they were all gone. All demons, all magics, banished from this earthly dimension. And the slayer, we do not know if she lived, but the demons being gone, she was the last one to be called. Which is intriguing because, again, this is supposed to be stuff that happens way after all the Buffy things. But because they mention a slayer in the 21st century, this does make me feel like that's who they're talking about. And he explains that the line continued. There were still girls with power. They were never called, they were never trained. The Council of Watchers fell to ruin, held together only by fanatics and fools, and that she even met her watcher yesterday. And she's like, no, I didn't. He said, did not one come to you and call you the chosen one? And she said, nobody has ever called me that except for the guy that set himself on fire. So I was originally right. But like, that's crazy. How can you be a watcher and set yourself on fire and not like go train her? She said he set himself on fire, and he's like, I said they were fanatics, but he set himself on fire. Centuries of useless obsessive waiting makes a human. He set himself on fire. And he said maybe he was cold. So we just saw that vampire guy again with the tattoos on him. Lurk, vampire, whatever. He has a name. It's called Icarus, which is part of the reason that makes me think he's like a higher level vampire lurk guy. Also, we've seen him like one other time without the memories as well. So he's definitely shown up a couple times. But he has the object that Fray stole from the museum. And he's like bringing it back to his boss. I feel like they are the ones having Fray steal stuff, and then Gunther is like selling it to them because they have the thing, and they were talking about her. And apparently that lurk that was there that attacked the guard and attacked her was supposed to be watching her. Obviously that did not happen. And the guy, whoever this boss is, we don't know who he is. We don't know what he looks like. Nothing. We know nothing about him. But he said things are moving faster than we expected. So they know something about it. Okay. Fray is talking to our demon watcher, I forgot his name again, guy. The girl with one arm came to her and was talking to her about stuff, and he's like, is this your kid? Like, do you have family? So she is saying that Erin is her sister, but she is part of the police, and then she had a brother. So I was right about that. So they went to the tavern to take the little girl back and started a brawl, because of course they did. Right before they started the brawl, and by they, I mean Fray, obviously, he was trying to explain how to kill vampires. And so he was doing the whole like, sunlight will kill them, stake through the heart, fire, and beheading. And she's like, well, there's not much sunlight down here in the lower levels, probably why lurks like to be here, and good luck getting your hand on a real piece of wood. So all they really have left is fire and beheading. And she gets into her brawl, gets thrown out, like punched by somebody that has a metal arm through the wall, and immediately is faced with Icarus, and she said that she's not ready for this. I'm assuming he's the guy that I saw in the memory as well. I'm assuming he killed her brother. Or turned her brother. Because wouldn't that just be perfect? Okay, we're on to issue number 4 called Out of the Past. Okay, we've gotten a little bit more backstory. Obviously, her brother was killed by Icarus. Her demon watcher. Again, I keep forgetting they've mentioned his name a couple, Urkon or something like that. They've mentioned his name. I keep forgetting. He was called by the little girl to go out and help her. He helped get the vampire guy off of her and like knocked the guy into the water. He has escaped. And he talked to whoever's in charge of him saying like, we need her. Well, now Urkon, I'm pretty sure that's his name, is talking to these like sky faces. I have no idea what's going on right now. Being like, there's something wrong with her. She doesn't have the dreams. She doesn't have the instincts. She is terrified of vampires. Like, what is going on? And they're basically just saying that like they need her. Our enemy must be stopped. And they're talking about someone who's called the one who will lead. And that's the threat, and she needs to stop them. But I have no idea what that means. And they're saying if she can't handle this, they will kill her and seek out the next slayer if they need to. They don't want to, but they will. Okay, we just got a little bit more backstory on her brother named Hearth. Apparently they were twins. He was 20 minutes older than her. I don't know if that means anything necessarily, but Urkon is like, that's very unusual, twins. I don't believe I've heard of potentially slayers that have twins, or that were twins. He's asking, was he strong? And she's like, no, he couldn't even open a jar of pickles. And he was too scared. But Icarus is the one that took him out. And now she knows the name. Fray went to go get information from Gunther on Icarus. And Erin came in and took her out and is placing her under arrest. I don't know if that means Gunther's in on that part or not, but like, come on. I was right. And I swear, I don't actually think I've read this one. I think I just know about her from like some season thing of Buffy. Okay, so Erin got her. As soon as they are outside with her, she's basically knocked unconscious. Lurks come out. So they have to drop Fray. and these lurks are coming. She wakes up and sees like what's happening. This guy is going for her sister. He has like a braided ponytail. She pulls him back and is telling Aaron to run when a different person hits her from around the back of the head. Fray gets knocked out and is now waking up somewhere else with Icarus, and her fucking brother is there and says, "Miss me?" He looks human in this picture. I mean, I could be mistaken. Maybe he was turned, because like, I just knew something like that would probably happen. And he has some of the stuff that she was stealing, like the statue and things. I don't know what he wants it for. I don't know. But he's here and I knew it. Okay. We're into issue 5 now, and her brother, Hearth, is talking about when he died. She mentioned that he died 4 years ago, so it's been like 4 years since this time, and that he's been watching for her, and things like that. And he, back then, was getting his blood sucked out, and he just said that he knew at some point that he was dying, and he knew what to do, and he like bit the vampire's cheek, Icarus's cheek, and got like blood in his mouth and everything. And those vampires at the time were like, "How did you know that you needed to drink our blood in order to become a vampire? How did you know?" He said, "I just knew, and I knew what we will become." And then he said, "You don't dream much, do you, Mel?" He's the one that got all her dreams. He said, "I dreamed. Always, before my earliest memories of the world, there were the dreams. There was the girl. She was different every time, but the same. A peasant, a priestess, hundreds of girls from the times we've forgotten, worlds we couldn't picture. She was me, she wasn't me. I loved her." He got all her prophetic dreams. And he just showed her that he can switch his face too. In this comic style, which I actually do really enjoy, when he switched his face to be more vampire-esque, like the monster, he gets that dingier, grayer color that everybody else has. All the lurks, they look very gray and dead, which is why when I first saw them I was like, maybe these are vampires. He also does seem to have a slightly more prominent brow ridge, but in general I don't fully notice it as much as some of the other comics that we have seen. So they didn't take that as like too much in that one direction. Again, it's been apparently a couple hundred years since the last time we saw other slayers. The vampires and all the other demons had gone away, but now they're back. He mentions that all vampires could look perfectly human if they really wanted to, so he chooses to look human. Icarus always chooses to look like a beast because I guess he's proud of that fact. And then a lot of the other lurks are too primitive to know how to change, which is intriguing. Does that mean they weren't human in the first place? Is like he one of the only vampires lately that's been changed from a human? Maybe. Oh, he's planning on opening the gateway to bring back the old ones because everybody was banished by some other slayer. Okay. The pieces that he had her steal, because he was in charge of it through Gunther, he says these are the pieces that are going to help him open the gateway. She was stealing like the amulet necklace, this weird statue thing from the museum. Apparently these are the things that he needs to open the gateway to bring in more demons. Okay, so she ends up going to Erin and explaining everything to her. She says she's sorry, but obviously she feels like Erin has pulled away from her since Hearth dies, and she completely understands. She blames herself as well, but she's basically warning her, everybody that she works with, that like things are coming. Lurks are coming. Hearth is leading them. Erin is like, "Are you sure we can't, you know, heal him, turn him not from a vampire?" And Frey's like, "Have you ever heard of that?" But she goes back to her place, finds her demon watcher guy, and her place is trashed. He said that he feared the worst because he's been looking for her for hours. And the girl with only one arm is dead in her apartment. They told her they were going to come after everyone she loved. Erin even made a little joke saying, "Well, I guess I'm safe." But they started. We are on issue number 6 now, called Alarms. Maybe Alarms, but like spelled differently. I don't know. But like this whole beginning, there's words on the screen talking about slayers and having been forged, and they have to fight alone and going to war and battle and things. And then it says, I have a gift for you. It is a weapon forged eons ago for the Slayer alone, lost for centuries. And I knew it, but it's the scythe. Is the Demon Watcher guy evil? Ah, my God. Okay. This story. Okay, so we're in issue number 6, and they're talking about going to war, and she's trying to prepare the lower level people and things like that. And then they show Hearth talking to his vampires and saying he's gonna bring hell to them. And then we go to this next page with these grotesque demons, but their faces are the fucking faces in the sky that the Demon Watcher guy, because I can't remember his name, I keep forgetting his name, Urkon, right? He was talking to them. These are them. He is trying to do something with her. I don't know exactly what, but in order to help Hearth bring hell back to Earth so these people can come out, I swear, I think that's what it did. Did he kill the girl? Did he kill the girl? Because she mentioned at one point that they didn't even drink her blood. My God, my God, oh my God. My emotions are everywhere right now. He's evil. He has to be, oh my God. Okay, so Urkon took her somewhere, or she took him somewhere with her, and they found like lurks trying to get a girl and things, and so she took them out, and like it was a big old battle. Like there was 2 to start with, and she was not doing so hot, but then she was able to take them out, and then a bunch more came because apparently the lurks travel in packs, and she was fighting and like really got into it, and I think she's really figuring out the fighting thing. So I can't trust Urkon. I can't trust him. There's too much stuff going on. Like he seems evil, but he was helping her learn how to fight and like do it well. Okay, we are on to issue 7 now. Hearth is starting some weird ritual. He was drinking blood out of a cup thing. So I don't know. There's a huge pile of dead bodies. Don't know. But Fray is out and about, and Icarus has taken off his shirt now. He also has tattoos on his chest and is like, let's do this. And she's like, yeah, fine, I'll do this. She has her like scythe thing, and he's like, so what are you gonna do? Just use your axe or whatever? And she's like, no, I have faith. Drops the axe. And then almost immediately after that, a car falls on Icarus. Aaron is in the car. So I'm curious to see, he's probably not actually dead or anything, but like a full-on car right on him. And then she said, that's for my brother, dickhead. I love the fact that Aaron is coming toward her now, Fray, but just like, so I'm thinking they think he is dead under there. I mean, again, I don't know for sure, but Urkon gives Fray back her scythe thing, and she's like, are we sure he's dead under there? And he's like, it would be safe to assume. And then she said, because you never mentioned squishing. Yeah, no, we talked about everything else, but not squishing. He said, oh, well, it tends to sever the head. Okay. Okay, Fray is expecting a big old fight, especially since Icarus was the one that was coming after her. She's like, I bet it's going down tonight. So they've been getting as many people as they can. The little girl's mom and dad are joining, and the dad also must have been missing an arm because he has like a prosthetic, and he changed it out to like a weird scissor sword thing. And Urkon is telling them that it's probably going to be a massacre, but Frey's like, but it'll be the right thing to do. Like, it just feels right. And then Aaron shows up with the cavalry. Apparently there's quite a few police people that have had enough of the lurks as well. So they're having even more people doing that. And it looks like we're starting the big battle. There is obviously killing on both sides. They've taken out a lot of the vampires and things like that. But a couple of the people that came to help them look like they're definitely getting injured and in trouble, if not dead. And just like that, we now have some sort of giant, I don't know, dragon centipede thing coming around the buildings. It is huge. I want to say the legs on it, I do think I saw a little bit as like a sneak preview in what Hearth was doing. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Urkon is saying that this weird demon dragon centipede thing is the gateway. Its womb is the gateway and it has to be stopped. I mean, I hope he's telling the truth. I just feel like he's evil. But how many bad guys could we really have in this? Who knows? She was with Aaron on like a little hover bike thing trying to get up to the top and she fell off and it got eaten by the dragon. I mean, at least is in the mouth and the mouth shut. Okay, that was the end of issue 7. I think issue 8 is the last one, chapter 8. And it starts off, okay, first of all, I'm in a mouth. Yeah. Oh, and the title of chapter 8 is All Hell. Is breaking loose probably. And she is trying to take it down from the inside. She doesn't want to go and be swallowed, so she's trying to hack into its brain apparently. Okay, we have some text from Urkon. He says he's failed. The Slayer is gone. The gateway is opening. Hell's own womb will disgorge the horde and they will eat this earth. I have failed. Okay. Again, I don't want to think he's a bad guy, but like, okay, I don't know if I can trust him still, but like, based on the words here, it does sound like he's on Fray's side. Oh, and she came out the thing's eye. She killed the thing. Aaron is on the ground, so she's trying to get over there, and Hearth comes up and says, you think this is over. You closed the gateway. You saved the Warren, maybe even all of Hayden, which I think is the stuff around there, the city or something maybe. Maybe the world. You'll never guess what's coming next. And then he kisses her. The incest. Like, yes, he's a vampire, he's a demon, but they're twins and it's just... okay. 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 Fray. I keep calling her Fray. They do call her Malaka in here. That is her name, but like, I don't know. She's going. Everything happened. Her brother gets away. Urkon, you know, tells her he's not gonna be able to get an army for a while. It's over for now. And she's like, no, it's not over. So she goes to Gunther's area and is like talking to him. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I was trying to warn you. I didn't know who he was right away. But then when I figured it out, I was trying to warn you. She's like, I did not hear you warn me at all. And he's like, well, I was giving you extra money. I was hoping that was gonna like give you a hint that something was up. And then she's like, well, you turned me into my sister. And he's like, yeah, it was to keep you safe. And then she's like, okay, well, this isn't about any of that. This is about the little girl. And he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she goes, I know. And then turns and says, but you did. She's talking to Urkon. Fucking knew it. Yeah, she said, vampires can't come in unless you ask them. I sure as hell never did. And they didn't feed. She's like, I figured out that you were twitchy. I wasn't looking like a winner and your creepy master sent you to bring me to battle and you thought I wasn't gonna fight. You thought I needed a push. So you snapped a 5-year-old's neck. Because hey, you're a demon, right? What's one small human life? We have a war coming. Am I right? My God, I knew it. And he said we would have lost. And she said, that's not good enough. I worked something else out too. You never helped. Every time I got out of the river, you never gave me a hand. Didn't follow Icarus when he dove in. Wouldn't even try the sewers to find Hearth's hideout. You're a powerful demon, I know. A great warrior. Could snap me in two. Someone gave you orders. You could pull apart any living man. But I don't think you can swim. Oh! Oh! She broke Gunther's, like, ceiling floor. My goodness. And she said he was a good teacher, even a friend, and for a friend, I make it quick. And then she stabbed him in the head with the pointy end of the scythe. Okay, we're back with the evil, ugly demon things. And they said she lives. She wins for us, closes the gateway, but she lives. As does the brother. I guess they wanted him taken out too. It says, Urkon will be unremembered, stricken from our warriors' books for his failure to end her. Okay, so he was supposed to have her kill the other thing, because I guess they didn't want all hell to break loose for some reason, but also kill her. So yeah, I mean, he was still evil, because these guys, their faces are evil. The end. This was one of those things that, okay, so technically it was 8 issues, which is about usually two trade paperbacks worth of comics. We've read a few different things before. I want to say Spike the Complete Series was also another one that was like worth 2 paperbacks. And I feel like I talked a lot, but this one was really good. I'm giving it 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this recent future. You know what I'm talking about? Like, yeah, they have flying cars and stuff, but it still felt grounded in a way. And I really liked the setting. I really liked Fray as a character. I guessed, obviously, as you guys could see, some of the twists and turns, but I think in a good way. I do not think I have read this one before, even though I recognize her name and stuff. I still can't believe that Icarus was just dropped, like a car just dropped on him, and apparently he's dead. Like, they didn't even, like, check. I don't know how they would check with a gigantic hover car on top of him, smashed into the ground. But yes, I really liked this one. 5 out of 5 stars. I do think, like I said, I'm pretty sure I know of her from other Buffy things. So this is definitely something that you are supposed to read before you go into the canon things. I don't know if this is considered canon or not, except for the fact that it is 100% written by Joss Whedon. So in my opinion, it probably is canon in some way, but this is future-esque. I really liked it. I really, really, really liked this one. Okay, this makes me very excited. I think we're gonna pause for right now. We have a couple more things that I want to read, obviously, this weekend, but this was great. 5 stars. Okay, it is the very next day, and we're moving on to the next 2 volumes that we're gonna be completing. Again, going to be more of like extra things before we move into Buffy season 8. So we are going to be reading the Tales of the Slayers and the Tales of the Vampires. From my understanding, you can read these in any order, but I think most of the things that I've seen online show Tales of the Slayer first, so that is what we're going to be doing. I think this is going to be more prequel-esque. I don't know for sure because I don't think I've read any of these. But unlike Fray, which is obviously set in the future, I think this is going to be more of like short stories following different Slayers. And so in my thinking, since Fray is in the future and I'm pretty sure Slayers stopped happening like 200 years before her, and it felt very Buffy-esque for that, it's probably stuff before. Okay, so we start off Tales of the Slayer with the first Slayer, which completely makes sense. She is fighting a vampire and being like, it's obviously going to be so easy to kill them. I am the Slayer. And this girl comes up with food from the village nearby and says, thank you so much for killing the vampires, but now you need to leave because all of the elders are afraid of you. They say you have part demon in you, and it will always be like her by herself, the only girl in all the world type of thing. But they did say after you, there will be another and another, a solitary girl, and you will be in them, they will be in you, etc. And the first Slayer says, the thought fills me with feelings I have to struggle to name. Confusion, pity, comfort. There will be others like me. And then it says, Tales of the Slayer. Okay, so we finished our first full story, which was called Righteous. I also have like a wiki pulled up to be able to see who's writing what stories, because it does look like we have a few different authors. So both the prologue with the first as well as Righteous were written by Joss Whedon, and it starts off very similarly to things that we've seen before, with basically a girl being called to be a Slayer and her watcher showing up and her denying the fact that she is this person. We've seen it with Buffy, we've seen it with Fray, we are now seeing it with this medieval times sort of girl. Like, they don't have a date, they don't give her a name, she's just this blonde girl who during the story wears white and is very like, doesn't want to be it because God wouldn't have cursed her like this. But then she does eventually accept the fact that she is the Slayer and has to fight things, and in her town this vampire guy who apparently has been alive for a long time decides to come in and start killing everybody, and they're like trying to be like in the church, like God will protect us. But it even says in the story, and it's in verse, I actually really liked the verse part of it, but it's in verse and it talks about how he knows how to climb. So even though the walls are closed to him and he can't get through that way, which is what the priest was saying, these walls will protect us. The walls will protect you. But this vampire knows how to climb. And so nobody is willing to go out and fight this vampire except for her. And she takes him down, she kills him, she saves the townspeople. But apparently the only thing worse than a vampire is a witch. And so they decide to burn her on a pyre. So yeah, that one got me a little bit. Like, I don't think everything is going to be terrible, but we know that slayers do sometimes have short, very sad, painful lives. So the next one that we're going to be reading, as I said, I have the wiki pulled up, is going to be called The Innocent, and apparently it is written by Amber Benson, who is Tara from the show. Okay, I don't know much about what's going on in Innocent yet. We seem to potentially have another slayer. She has dark hair this time. Again, very fancy clothes now, so I think we're in a different time period, and I'm pretty sure we're French because she and this other guy were falling. She like caught him and then he knocked her over. I think he's on her team though, because then there is a vampire. You can completely see a vampire, and she takes out a stake and is like, die, and he says, no, s'il vous plaît. So I'm like, I'm pretty much sure we're French. We're in French area right now. Okay, this one was interesting. I want to say there was a little part in the middle that I wasn't 100% sure about, and it didn't have a ton of dialogue, so I think there was just too much action trying to happen in the middle. But from my understanding, like I said, we have a French darker haired slayer and there's this guy with her. He is helping her out. I don't know if he's a watcher or not, but they're in love. They were kissing and things. But he was telling her, hey, there's another vampire to go kill this way. So that's why I'm like, maybe he was. I don't 100% know. But so she goes to the house to go kill the vampire and stakes him. And then he's like, please, not the children. And I don't think he turned to dust, but it was really hard because at first I couldn't tell if she actually staked him or not, but then there was blood on him. So I'm pretty sure she killed a human and not a vampire. And then she ends up going to the guy and says, you made me a cold-blooded murderer. Like, how dare you? I loved you. So I do think whoever that guy was, watcher or not, ended up making her go kill, I guess, some sort of aristocrat. He said they deserve the guillotine. But he made her, instead of going after and killing vampires, made her kill a human. Okay, so our next story was Presumption, which is the perfect title for this, and it was written by Jane Espenson, who is a writer and producer for like Buffy, and even right now my mom and I are watching Once Upon a Time. She's a producer and sometimes writer for that show too, and I was like, I see the name. Okay, so Presumption is set in 1813, and we are following a redheaded woman and I guess her friends at a ball. They talk about being a lady in this time and how your most interesting nights are like going to a ball at the biggest house there. And while she is there, I guess there's this new guy, and all the women are talking about this new guy, and she goes up and dances with him, and they're talking while they're dancing. And there's also the, like, you know, words on the page that aren't dialogue but are like people's thoughts, and they talk about how the slayer knew that it was a vampire as soon as they touched hands, and we were watching them dance and all this kind of stuff. And so you're seeing this stuff happen, and this woman, again, I think we had a name. Did we have a name for her? Catherine. The redheaded woman is named Catherine. So Catherine is talking to the guy, Edward, and talking to him about how everybody is so interested in him. He's brand new. He is like, everybody wants to know, is he engaged? Does he like certain foods? All this kind of stuff. And he's like, I do not want people to be aware of me at all. And so they have to like sort of stop their dance, which is, you know, sort of improper. He goes off with his brother and is like playing cards, and Catherine's talking to the other women, and they're like, you know, having this like little play on things. I am bored as heck, I will tell you that now. I think it's the 1813 prim and proper ball stuff. Like, I just don't care. But so then they end up talking again, and talking like, hey, if you really want to not be bored, because Catherine mentioned that it's sort of boring to just go to these parties and stuff, let's be improper and go outside onto this balcony. And it really looks like Edward is like stalking up on Catherine. And then she turns around and she's a vampire and he stakes her because Edward is actually a woman. Now, they mentioned that it was easier to back away from all the presumptions people have and the scrutiny that she would have to face. So she is living as a man instead of, I think they called her Elizabeth. I'm assuming her brother's maybe her watcher and not actually her brother. But so Elizabeth is going by Edward. I don't know if this is supposed to be like maybe like almost like a trans thing or not, because again, this is in the 1800s. We do know of stories of women living as men, not necessarily because they feel like they're men, more because of like the rights and stuff that they can have. I don't know. It was just very, very intriguing because again, the presumption when we are introduced to Catherine first about this being a bunch of tales of slayers, you think she is the slayer because she's a girl and that Edward is the vampire. But it turns out Edward is still the one girl in all the world who is going to slay the vampires. I was hating this story up until the reveal, and then I was like, you know what? I love it. 5 stars. Like, that was great. Okay. This was another sad one. So the next one that we had was The Glittering World. This was written by David Fury, another writer and producer and things for Buffy and Angel. He's the mustard guy from the show. Like, if you watch Once More with Feeling, the mustard guy. I really liked that this one follows a native character. They talk about Navajo and some like little mythology for that, but like obviously it relates into being a slayer. And so our slayer is a native girl. I don't want to assume she is Navajo for sure because they also mention Dine and things like that, and I don't personally know all the words, but they did mention Navajo. And this is obviously in like more Wild West sort of times because there is the saloon that she goes into, which is just full of vampires. And she walks up to the bar and is like, I'm looking for a vampire. And they're like, there's none of them here. Like, really? It's full of vampires. But so obviously they start to have a little brawl. She has a bow and arrow and is able to like shoot it as her stake, which I love that. Why aren't we teaching, I mean, we have the crossbows and things in Buffy, but like, I feel like the bow and arrow stuff, that makes sense. A lot of those are wooden and like, it just makes sense to me. And I really love that. But apparently she was looking for a very specific vampire who did appear to be also native. However, she mentions that this vampire was killing, I guess, killed her watcher. And the vampire said, well, what's one more white man? And she's like, well, you're half. Your dad was white. And this vampire girl talks about like how it poisoned her mother. So you know, in this time period, rape, maybe. I don't know. That's where my brain went to. I can understand why somebody who is half native, knowing that her mother was raped potentially to have her, could be a very bad, traumatizing thing. And she would want to, whether she was a vampire or not, go and punish that kind of thing. But so they do a big old battle. The vampire wounds our slayer, but the slayer does stake her with a broken, it looks like maybe an arrow or something like that. So she does end up turning into dust. But after the fight, it does look like our slayer was injured just a little bit too much. And it says in the end, it was decided that death would go on. They were talking about like a story, and then like right after it says, boy golly, you sure know how to spin a heck of a yarn there, Padre. And this guy is talking to the priest because it says, you know, forgive me, my son, but as you'll be building a new town on this land, I thought you should know it's a cursed history. And he says, I appreciate that. But I'm gonna do it anyway. And the guy's like, do you have any idea what you'll be calling your new town? Mr. Wilkins, Richard Wilkins, something real cheery sounding, I was thinking. Happydale or Sunny Acres. What do you think? It's the mayor. We know he's been alive for a very long time. So again, I really like this story. I like this like little ending thing too, but it was also quite sad. Okay, I just barely started our next story, which is called Sonnenblume. I don't know. This one is written by Rebecca Rand Kirshner. That name doesn't actually mean anything to me like some of the other names do. And it's set in Nuremberg, Germany, September 10th, 1938. And yeah, this is like the second page. We start it and they're definitely heiling. I wasn't entirely sure at first, and then it just became more and more obvious. And on the second page, they literally have Hitler and Nazis and things. Like, I don't know where we're going with this one. Okay. I don't know how I feel about this one. Again, very tough topics, obviously, as I sort of leaned us into there. Our main character is called Sonnenblume. I don't know what that means. I probably could look it up. I probably could. By a Jewish baker. She is like somebody that Sonnenblume has known. Her mom usually buys their bread there, etc. And on her way home from the bakery, she has the bakery stuff and a rolling pin. There's a vampire and she's like, I know what I have to do. I have to fight the evil. She breaks the rolling pin, you know, kills the vampire, goes home. Her mom is upset that the rolling pin is broken, and they're out money. And Sonnenblume is like, well, it's not as much money as you think because I bought it from this woman. And the mom, because of the whole German Nazi thing, is like, you can't buy from her anymore. They're Jewish. We can't do that. And then we're seeing Sonnenblume, who I think her name, they also call her Annie, like everybody else, A-N-I. She like is in school and they're preaching about what is bad. And of course, in this Nazi Germany thing, it's the Jewish people are bad. Well, she goes out to fight one night and sees Nazi soldiers being really horrible to Jews and their families and things like that. And she says, I realize now what actually is evil. And she ends up punching out a high-ranking Nazi officer. But then it just sort of ends by her following the other family. And she says, like, I finally recognize the real evil here and now I will fight it. Now I will begin because I can't be like everyone else. But then she's looking for Mr. Green and Mrs. Green and Sarah, I guess, is the daughter. And then she says, it's just me. But they don't really show anything else. So like the way it ended, I was confused. Okay, and Sonnenblume is just the German word for sunflower, so that doesn't necessarily mean anything either. She has sunflowers on her dress right here in this picture, so I guess that makes sense. I'm glad they had the sort of commentary that they did, but it was a lot of harsh imagery, and I don't fully understand the ending. Okay, our next story, I'm done with it already, is called Nikki Goes Down, written by Douglas Petrie, another person that I think is a writer on Buffy and stuff. I really like the art style. Who is the artist on this? Jean Colin. It was very illustrative, like pencil, like colored pencil type of thing. Basically we follow a slayer named Nikki. I don't know if it's supposed to be Robin Wood's mom or not, because he's not in the picture at all. It could be something before that, who knows. But she apparently has a partner, a romantic partner named Lee, who is a cop or detective. And he doesn't know that she's the slayer, and when he goes out one night to do like a stakeout thing, she follows him. And the person who's like smuggling things in is a vampire, so she's like, good, I'm here to do some work. Fighting and brawling happens. She gets knocked out. When she wakes up, Leah's dead. And so she's like, okay, well, I need to go take revenge. I heard this vampire guy's gonna have a party up somewhere, so she is gonna wear her best pearls and go fight him. And I guess one of the things that he smuggled was an old demon-y thing. I don't know. She said it was like an ancient sort of thing. It's a gigantic bat. And so she ends up trying to take that out. It like goes out the window of this building and they're like flying around, and she gets her pearls around its neck and somehow gets it into the subway so that the subway like kills it. And then it just says that, you know, Spring in Harlem comes and goes. Bahamas summer begins. Hunting season. LeBanc's men, the vampire guy, have spotted another nest. He's got business to finish, and so do I. And she has him in her crosshairs of her crossbow. And that was it. Like, it was fine. I really liked the art and everything, but I don't think the story was as interesting as I wanted it to be. And then I think we only have one left, which is called Tales, and we have Fray back. Okay. And it looks like because it is Fray, it is written by Joss Whedon, who also wrote all the Fray stuff. So let's see. Okay, it appears that Fray is still fighting vampires, obviously. She does mention that every Slayer subconsciously inherits the memories of all the previous Slayers, except for her, obviously, as we found out before. Her brother got all that kind of stuff instead. But she's still doing jobs for Gunther, because she said that these vampires she fought got in the way of her day job. And he said it was something that she would get a kick out of it. So, like, that's why she's on this job. And it's like a weird demon monkey thing with, like, 4 arms. And it stole her scythe. So, yeah, she needs to go grab that. She's calling it a spider monkey because it has lots of arms and stuff. Stole her scythe and she was chasing it, and apparently it led her to this building that has like a scythe symbol, like her scythe symbol on the floor. And it's like a library, and it has Watcher's diaries and things. Interesting. Okay, I really like this one. She basically just gets there and is able to read the stuff, and they have this like panel with all the Slayers that we just read about, plus some of the ones that we knew about previously as well. And she's reading about the battles, the tricks, the fears, and the victories, all the girls so different who lived as I do. All of their stories are laid before me, and my hands are shaking. I am the only one in the world, but I am not alone. Which is good, because like she said, she doesn't have all the memories. She didn't get all the inherent stuff besides the powers, like the athletic ability and strength and things like that. And so yeah, we have a lot of the Slayers. A lot of these people are ones that we have seen in the stories and everything. Okay, and so it does look like they had all the artists and authors and stuff at the end. I've officially finished everything. I really liked this one. Again, some stories were like 5 out of 5. Other ones were okay, so I'm gonna give it a 4 because of the fact that it is an anthology collection, but I really did like this. I liked that we got more of Fray, because I actually really liked that one, obviously. And this was interesting. Again, a lot of the Slayer stuff that we learn throughout Buffy, you can tell that there are some very difficult, hard-hitting, like painful Slayer moments, and I definitely think we got those in here. Not everything was gonna be happy stories or anything like that, but I really enjoyed a lot of it. So we're gonna say 4. I think that's a pretty good rating for an anthology collection like this, and it makes me excited for the vampires one as well. Okay, we've had lunch and we are back. We are now going to be moving on to the Tales of the Vampires, which I'm assuming again has short stories and multiple different authors, so I'll probably pull up the wiki so we can sort of go through that as we read. I had heard that there's a couple stories in this sort of Tales of the Vampire in general that are set during season 8, I think, of Buffy, but when I was on the wiki looking at stuff, the trade paperback version of Tales of the Vampires doesn't seem to have those stories in it. So I don't know, the version that I found online, I don't know what one we're gonna have. Like if it's gonna have those extra stories that we should skip or not. If they have them, I will mention them. If not, I will mention the titles and stuff afterwards. But that's what we're gonna be doing next, Tales of the Vampires. Okay, so we have started the Tales of the Vampires, and it opens with almost like a little prologue, but different than the Tales of the Slayers, where we just sort of start with the first Slayer and then obviously there's going to be more stuff. This one has a group of young kids with an adult with them, but they appear to be like watchers in training. And there's quite a few of them, boys and girls, and they are going in like down, it looks almost like castle dungeon area, and there is a vampire called Roche, and he is down there trapped, but apparently they're gonna be like listening to him tell stories of the vampires. They said, are we gonna listen to your story? And he's like, no, you need to hear other stories first. And then once they did that, we sort of jumped into the next story. The beginning story, Tales of the Vampires, is written by Joss Whedon. And now we're getting into like, I guess our first like actual story of vampires. Okay, the first story is The Trouble with Vampires, written by Drew Goddard, who is another like writer and stuff for Buffy. And it starts off just saying, hello. And it starts off just by like saying that like the trouble with vampires is they turn to dust. So if you want to tell people to get out of your town or like set up your empire sort of thing, with humans, there's multiple ways to set up a body to scare people off. But with vampires, it's very different. And then they sort of switch to a vampire's point of view, who you don't really get to see very well, but they're basically taking stock of themselves, basically like, I know usually how I handle stuff at night, but maybe last night was different. And they know that they're in Prague based on the like towers and things surrounding them. Your mouth tastes like whiskey and blood. So far so good. Your head starts to clear and you realize most of the blood in your mouth is your own. You think maybe something different has happened. The stake in your chest, a ½ inch from your heart, seems to support that notion. And then they like stand up, take the stake out of themselves, and it says, this is the sort of night that might make an ordinary person pause and reevaluate his life, but you're no ordinary person. Couple of stiff drinks and a few belts off the old jugular and you'll be right as rain. You don't start to panic until you look around and realize you've lost your girlfriend, and it's Spike. Okay, so obviously this whole thing was about what happened in Prague to Drusilla before season 2 of Buffy. She is being tortured and retreats into her mind a little bit. Like, we know even on her best days, she's a little bit crazy. But because of everything, she retreats into her mind a little bit. Spike does go and save her. But it's just, I guess, the basis of what happened in Prague. Okay, our next story was Stacy. This one was written by Joss Whedon as well. And it basically just starts off with her talking about how she really wanted to believe in magic. She saw the Lord of the Rings movie when it first came out, and just like fell in love with elves and hobbits and wanting to have magic and wanting to battle orcs and things. And then sometime later she ends up at a party and she talks about how you know, maybe people don't understand what magic would feel like, but they definitely don't understand getting murdered. And it shows her at this party, and this vampire guy shows up, and obviously she gets changed. And then it's just like about her liking being the orc and having a community of her own instead of feeling alone as a human. It's a very interesting take on the vampire stuff, because she says she knows she's evil, she knows she's a monster, but it seems like she likes that. And like, again, just these are Tales of the Vampires, but it's interesting. Okay, so we're going into issue 2 of Tales of the Vampires, and it looks like we're back with the Watcher children. Okay, so our next story was called Spot the Vampire. This is written by Jane Espenson. I absolutely love the art style of this, very colorful and cartoony, and I just really, really liked it. And basically it is told in verse, which again I really enjoy, and they're showing all these different people from this picture and asking you like, which one do you think is the vampire? And at the very end of the story, they talk about how actually the frame around this picture is because it's a mirror. So the vampire isn't even in that at all. And it says, that's why it's too late. You're unable to flee. The vampire, as always, is the one you don't see. I just really like that one. Okay, our next story was Jack. This one is by Brett Matthews. I don't know this name, so I don't think it's somebody that I've seen like in Buffy credits or anything. And yes, this story is about Jack the Ripper. We're following this like older detective, I want to say, superintendent or something like that, as they like find another body. They're like, it's happened again. Let's go, you know, figure out what's going on. And this guy is like researching and looking at all these charts and body like diagrams and things. And he's like, I don't think Jack the Ripper, because it's such a common name, is who is this? It is, what is this? And he's like, I think I know. He goes out the next night and finds a hooker under a bridge with a guy, and he's like Jack, I know it's you. And Jack turns around and is obviously a vampire. And Jack is like, you're spoiling things for me, old man, I'm gonna kill you. And then we look at the superintendent again, and he is also a vampire. And he says, I'm much older than you, and you're ruining things for the rest of us. And he takes out Jack the Ripper, and then the story ends by, I guess, him telling this other detective guy, I don't know, saying like, I think I want off the case. And the guy's like, well, do you think we're ever gonna catch Jack the Ripper? He's like, no, I don't think we're ever gonna catch him. I think he's in the wind, dust in the wind. Interesting, because once they pulled up the name Jack, I immediately assumed Jack the Ripper. I immediately assumed Jack the Ripper's gonna be a vampire. I did not assume the other guy was also gonna be a vampire. Okay, and with that we're going into issue 3, which looks like, again, we're gonna have some more Tales of the Vampires with our little watcher children who, it's been going okay with them. They're just like, again, listening to the stories from this older vampire guy. Some of them are a little bit feistier than others, but they're also like, why are we having to listen to this vampire? Why do we have this vampire in the basement? Like, you know, questioning things. But yeah, Tales of the Vampire. It starts off with one of the kids writing in a diary. It says, today I spoke with a dead man. Because they're talking to a vampire. Okay, this girl that we're following in this Tales of the Vampire thing, her name is Edna, and she's still writing in her diary, but she's talking about how even though he's a vampire and is like evil and things like that, the way he talks is very familiar. Like, he's not saying Miss Fairweather, I think is her last name, but he's calling her Edna, and there's something about him that makes her want to be seen by him, want to be an equal with him. Feels like maybe we have some, like, maybe this is an older vampire that has some, like, Dracula powers of, like, persuasion. I don't know. Yeah, she's saying there's a darker purpose here. She is afraid to go back in the cellar, but she also longs to. Yeah, there's definitely something weird going on with the Tales of the Slayer stuff. Because it's, like, every so often. It's, like, the first story in every issue. So the next story was Father, written by Jane Espenson. I have to say, I think I really, really enjoy her stories. I think I've enjoyed all of them that I've read so far in both collections and everything. So this story is about a man who, his father was turned into a vampire when he was a baby. Apparently his mother was also dead. They talked about her having an illness at the father's funeral. But even after the funeral and everything, his father came back and was taking care of him, and they would always like do stuff at night. His father worked the night shift, and they would go to like the pier sometimes, and they would eat corn dogs, but like the dad never ate, and so it's unmentioned that he would fall asleep in the car sometimes, and maybe he ate then, and they obviously show us the dad drinking from a human at that time, but they're just like showing throughout this entire guy's life. He starts to grow up, he is going off to war, and he realizes he knows what his dad is by that point. He eventually comes back from war, and he finds a woman, and they get married, and they have their wedding in the winter at like 5 p.m. because it's dark enough that his dad can come to the wedding. The woman's mom is not as happy about his dad being there. She knows something's off. He looks very young, obviously. Eventually they have a baby, and the mother-in-law is like, I do not want your dad around this baby. So he does tell his dad that he can't be there, and relatively soon after that the mother-in-law goes missing, and they just sort of show as this guy gets older. He gets much older and meets his dad again like 50 years later or something like that, again at the like pier, and they're just sort of walking around, and eventually he gets even older and he's on his deathbed, and his dad is there to take care of him, but a slayer comes in and slays his dad on his deathbed and says he was going to hurt you, and the guy says no, he wasn't, and then the slayer guy is like, I'm sorry, was he your son? And the guy says yes, because it's close enough. That was actually a bittersweet one, because obviously the guy's dad was a vampire, but he had enough of something that he was still taking care of his son all of those years. I liked that one. Okay, sorry. Our next story is Antique. This is written by Drew Goddard, who is another, writer from Buffy and stuff. And apparently Dracula is here, and he is talking about how like, oh, because you're my guests, I will not harm you. Please don't be frightened. And somebody off screen, off page, says, we're not. He's like, what? They said, we're not frightened. He says, you're not frightened? No. Well, how about now? He turns into a bat. No. How about now? Turns into a wolf. No. How about now? I'm not even sure what you are. I am fog. Oh, then no. Like, yeah, it's something funny. Yeah, it's just so funny. Oh, and then it looks like it's Buffy at the bottom, which is great. But yeah, just the whole, like, you're not frightened, and it's just like turning into all these different things, and it's like fog and stuff. Like, no, we're not scared of fog. Sorry, this one's really funny. So he does say that this is Miss Summers and her Slayers. So this is obviously post season 7. And then he was like, they would never be so frightened as something as commonplace as a swarm of bees. And they're like, I think I'm allergic to bees. Oh, no, wait, I'm allergic to soy. Just the little humor in here. I do like that a lot. Okay. Okay. So he's still trying to be all scary, and he turns into an old man, and people are like, old men aren't scary. And he's like, well, I'm trying to show you your non-existence. And somebody else is like, he's actually sort of scaring me now. But Buffy says they'll leave as soon as they get what they came for. They came to get something back that he had taken from them. And he's like, I assure you, I have nothing of yours. And then from the door, you hear a little, Master? Master? Are they gone yet? And it's Xander. Okay, we have finished that one. I really like that one too. I think it was just full of a lot of funnier moments. Buffy and him are fighting. He's talking to her about, like, you're eventually going to be a tall tale. People will make movies and TV shows about you, and it's all because you had the cardinal sin to grow old, to age. And she said, you know who talks about age? Old people. But so they're like fighting, and then Xander comes and smacks her, and she's like, did you teach him how to slap? He's like, no, I think that's his base instinct. And then she's like, well, you need to release him and let him come with me. And he's like, he's all I have left. Well, him and my mansion and my harpies and my carriage and my garden and my shipping company. Okay, fine, you can have him. I just think it's hilarious. But then he lets them go, and you just sort of see him by himself. And then he's like sort of old, and it makes you feel a little bit sad for him in that point. Like, obviously, I think vampires know they are going to be immortal, and this could happen. The aloneness sort of thing. It sounds like he just wanted a friend. Like, he said that he had Xander for like a year, but I really like this one for the humor that it had. Okay, moving into issue number 4. Again, we have the next Tales of the Vampires thing with all our Watcher children here. Okay, so our Edna girl here wants to hear about how Roche, the vampire, became a beast, became a vampire. She said she's talked about triumphs and other bloodthirsty things that he has, I guess, in his stories, but not of like how he was turned. So I'm assuming maybe we're gonna learn. Okay, he talks about how he was a cobbler of shoes, and I guess some sort of plague thing, I'm assuming vampire, was going through town, but people who didn't sin and were always in their house after nighttime thought they were safe. He says the only thing he saw of his sire were his shoes, and they were like the finest pair of shoes he'd ever seen, until his sire pulled him from his grave. And Edna asks, what was he like? And he says, a giant of a man, finely attired, but with the beast stamped clearly on his bearded face. Magnificent, had the power to mesmerize, a power known to so few of us, showed me worlds. And then she says in her mind, and horribly everything falls into place. The lies, the truths, I realize our lessons are all but over, the tales are told. And we are not here as students after all. We're lambs. Okay. Yeah, they must be like mesmerized. One of the boys like stands up and starts to walk a little closer, and an arm reaches out to grab him. And then we're going right into our next story, which is Dust Bowl, and it does say Jane Espenson, so I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much, but like I said, I've been liking her stories a lot, so... Okay. I don't think I necessarily liked this one as much, so it is obviously surrounding the Dust Bowl. Not any rain, lots of dust storms, clouding up the air, all this kind of stuff. Apparently a storm comes in, and our main guy is named Joe. He lives on the farm with his mother, and because of this, he's like, the storm's coming in, we need to be careful. The horse can find its way back to the barn, but like, we need the cows are our livelihood. He goes to like take them in and sees this wandering man out there. He's like, I've been seeing them more lately. And then he goes back home and his mom has invited this wandering man into the house because they couldn't leave him out there. They go to bed at night, and when he wakes up, the guy is gone, but his mother is now turned into a vampire. Mother tries to go and drink from him and does, and then he says something about like it's instinctual to drink from your own mother. So he also drinks from her. Obviously he turns into a vampire, but he is not aware of this. He is very confused about stuff. His mom is trying to explain like, we're the same, we're together. He stakes her, he kills her, turns her into dust. But now he's like, I'm thirsty. What am I gonna do about it? He goes and like drinks from a cow. That's not enough. He's gonna go to his neighbor down the road, who's a girl, has a farm, decides to drink from her, wants to change her, but doesn't know how to do it. So he just ends up with a dead body. And then eventually he goes back home and realizes that like animal blood doesn't taste as good as human blood, but nobody's there to really teach him how to be a vampire. So he does the next best thing he can think about and puts out a room for rent sign. And anytime people come in asking for help or anything like that, he offers it and then takes them in his barn and kills them and drinks their blood that way. And he said it's just another kind of ranching. I don't know if any of these people are actually still alive or not. They look very dead. Yeah. Okay. Not what I thought this story was going to be. So I just read Taking Care of Business, written and illustrated by Ben Edlund. Again, another name I don't know, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But we're following this like crazed vampire who only kills holy men. Let's just say that. Preachers, priests, fathers, you know, holy men. And he sees this father, I don't know all the things. He's that one that has like the black stuff with the white piece here, at like a candy store, because I guess he also likes candy, and he decides to follow him because obviously he only really kills holy men. And while he's out there, he's talking about, you know, he was also a religious man, and helped kill a witch, and because of that a vampire came and destroyed their whole caravan. It was back during like the Inquisition times, but he was made into a vampire, and he doesn't know why this guy, this father, is not scared of him. He's just like eating gummy worms, and the guy says, it's because I'm God. I'm God and you need to listen to me, and you just go off into the desert and lay down for the sun. And this vampire, who is also obviously very crazed, is like, yeah, I will do that for you. And then a police car comes up to the father and says, Hollis Avery, does your mama know you're out here? And they're like, where did you get that outfit? Mail order. Are you off your meds? And the guy's like, I met a vampire. And they're like, is that so? So this is, I guess, this guy who's dressed as a father who told this vampire to go out and just lay down in the sun is somebody who has some sort of mental health thing and is just out there. Okay, and I think we're on our last issue now of Tales of the Vampires. And obviously we're going to be starting with Tales of the Vampires. Okay, right, we are back, and Roche has one of the kids, by the throat and says, release me, it is this morsel's only hope. And of course Edna is like, no, you're gonna kill him, you're gonna kill us all anyway. Perhaps you'd like some help? And she grabs the curly-haired girl and puts a knife to her throat. Like, what is going on? Okay, she says, get your hand off of Roger's throat or I will kill your sire. And the other boy's like, is anyone else confused? We study undead languages. Die einsame, the lonely in the feminine, not a man, as you unconvincingly claimed, but a woman who wears fine shoes. Okay. She's saying his sire, based on his story, was a woman because of the shoes. Okay. So this is very like Interview for the Vampire Coded. She looks very similar to what I remember Kirsten Dunst looking like in that movie. And she says she was here for 5 days waiting for the right moment to free her child, and here's your very last lesson. Don't call my hair stupid. Well then. Oh, that's it. Okay, well, I think Edna died, she said, as the darkness closes in. Was not expecting that. Okay. Okay, our first story after the Tales of the Vampire thing was Some Like It Hot by Sam Loeb. Again, another person I've not heard of before. Very sort of like Frankenstein-esque, like the Doctor, in the fact that like there's this vampire who really misses the sun, hates feeling cold, and so wants this procedure done. And this guy feels very Victor Frankenstein-esque, decides to take his heart out of his chest and apparently replace it with some sort of metal contraption. And it apparently does work. This guy is able to go outside after he like kills the nurse and things. Like it's a fine story. But he gets outside and he's like, yes, it's warm, and fuck, it's hot. And I'm just like, okay, that part I can understand being a little bit funny, but it was fine. Oh, our next story is Numb by Brett Matthews. And it looks to me like it is about Angel, because that's definitely his face right there. Interesting. The art was gorgeous, beautiful. But it's obviously some sort of dream sequence that Angel is having. He goes into this town and wants to have a drink at like a diner, and he can see himself in the mirror of the diner, and the waitress gives him blood and he is like, ew, disgusting, blood. But then he goes out of the diner and there's this like little girl there saying that you killed me before, and then she turns into like this grotesque dead. You can see like the holes in her neck and things. And then he sees this trap door and it opens and it turns into Jenny Calendar as a ticket taker for like a movie thing, and she's like, here's your tickets or whatever it is, don't open any of the doors, just go down the hallway. And he's like, I don't know what's going on. He opens a door and then there's her dead, and then he's like going even further and he's like fighting Angelus a little bit. Angelus says something about like, I don't think you are like a real person, I think you're just a soul, tell me, who do you see when you look in a mirror? And of course Angel wakes up and then looks in a mirror, and you can't see yourself in the mirror if you're a vampire. So like, art was gorgeous. I don't know if I necessarily got that one. Oh, we're back at the Watcher children. They're saying that they think she's dead. I don't know if they mean Edna or the little girl. One of the boys is crying about Edna. Oh, no, Edna's sitting up. They said that they don't think she was turned because it was too quickly. They're just like, Edna, how do you feel? She's asking about all the people around her, like the girl that was a vampire, she's dead now. Is the boy okay? The boy's fine. And the older guy says, there was no feast for the animals this day. And then she says, sir, you are adult. She's like, is this how you train watchers, by bringing children to be slaughtered? You're bloody idiots. Edna is sort of badass. She's like, you vampire, you are everything I loathe, but I have learned a lot from you, and I'm sorry for your loss. One of the other like older watchers says, it is unseemly to show sympathy. And she said, go make love with a herring, you useless git. I sort of love her a little bit. Interesting. Okay, so she leaves and they said that girl has no place in the Watchers organization, but somebody else says, don't worry, old bean, you and I will be long gone from the council by the time she's running it. So I don't know exactly who she's supposed to be. But she said, what have I learned? Grown-ups are stupid even when they're dead. I suppose that's not all. I did face 2 vampires today. I lived to tell the tale. An adventure that could not fail to impress even an older boy like him. She really has a crush on the baker's son. I didn't know if it was going to mean anything, so I didn't mention it. It was only mentioned like barely, twice. But she says, who knows, maybe one day I'll be telling our grandchildren about it. And it's Giles's bakery. I wonder if this is like our Giles, like his parents or something, like their origin story. I liked that. And I think that is officially it for what I can find here. I did read the issues of Tales of the Vampire. I don't think I liked it as much as Tales of the Slayer. Tales of the Slayer had some very hard stories and stuff in there, but these ones had some more that were just a little bit more confusing or fine. There were some ones that I really enjoyed, but besides that, I don't think it was my favorite. I'm gonna go 3.5 though, because I don't think I can necessarily just put it down at a 3, because 3 is usually things that I reserve for like, they were just perfectly fine, not special in any way, and there was some good stuff in here, just not as much as like Tales of the Slayer. I think that one was a little bit more concise and a little bit better for me personally, so I'm gonna say 3.5. But otherwise, I did really enjoy it. I did not see the 2 stories that I had seen online saying there was 2 stories, I think in Tales of the Vampires somewhere, that you need to read like during Buffy season 8 or something like that. One was called, I think, The Thrill, and one was called Carpe Noctem. I'll see if they turn up, because some of the trade paperbacks that I have do have some short stories in there that aren't necessarily like part of the overarching main plot. We'll have to see because I don't remember, but I did like these. Fray was amazing, and these ones were really fun too. Like, again, not full 5 stars for these specifically, but reading the short stories was fun. So that is gonna be it from me today. We will be jumping into Buffy season 8, the canon season 8, starting next weekend. So I hope you guys will join me then. And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I will be having all the Bewitched by Buffy stuff up on Tuesdays, but I also post videos on Thursdays and Saturdays. So I will see you then. Bye.